Hey, welcome to the Business Spotlight. I'm Pat Dewar. Today we're going to be talking about a unique subject that has to do with purchasing and acquiring businesses. But really it's going to be dental practices. My guest is uniquely suited for that. Dave Swift has started his career at Stanford, undergraduate, graduate degree. He also went on to work for Procter & Gamble, PepsiCo in the Frito-Lay division, and other companies that were like that, which to me established him as the marketing guru that he is, and that's his website as well. So with that, thanks so much, Dave. It's great to have you on the show.
Pleasure being here, Patrick.
Now, I want to get into this idea of buying dental practices, and some of you may be looking at that thinking, how does that apply to me? Well, if you're an investor, or if you know an investor in businesses, dental practices are a good buy, aren't they?
Well, they are. Now, in the state of Texas, you do have to be a dentist to buy a dental practice.
Oh, okay.
But there are situations where corporations come in and have an equity ownership by a dentist, and yet basically it becomes their business as they manage it for that dentist. So that is, it's called a dental management service organization, and probably not the topic for today, but it is certainly one where when you look at the principles that you look at in purchasing a practice, it's going to be the same for purchasing any kind of business.
Yep. And I know that even if you're an entrepreneur, one of the things that you want to do is listen to the parts of the program that apply to any purchase. Would you agree?
Correct. Correct.
So what's the attractor factor for you for wanting to help either acquire or sell dental practices?
Well, what we see in the marketplace is dentists who come out of school, they are looking for a job.
Right.
Sometimes they're so burdened by loans that they don't have any capital left to actually buy a practice. So they're left with two choices. They either go to work for another dentist as an employee, or they start a practice from scratch. If they're going to work for a dentist, typically what happens is that they work for a couple of years, learn a little bit about it, and then they're ready to fly the roost, go out and again either start from scratch or buy a practice. Starting from scratch is a very high risk proposition. Just because you build it doesn't mean they will come. So the safer proposition is you find a dentist who is nearing retirement or about to retire, and who basically has a whole practice full of people who are used to coming to them to this location for their dentistry. They like their doctor, and the key is you want to be able to find a practice where the goodwill built up by that doctor can be transferred to you and become a source of ongoing cash flow and revenue for you, therefore making the purchase of the practice viable.
Now, one of the things I would be curious about is what makes you uniquely qualified to even step into this arena?
Well, when it comes to purchasing practices, one of the things I do is I value practices for banks. So they trust me to determine, since most of the value in a dental practice is not equipment, it is goodwill.
Right.
It's cash flow. It's EBITDA. And so they look at me to help them determine, well, what's the best value, or what is the value of that practice that we will then loan against, either to help somebody buy it or for equipment or whatever. Well, the way that the market is set up is most dentists sell their practices through selling brokers or through
right.
brokerage firms, either local or national. And those brokers are really representing the seller. And they get a percentage of what the practice sells for. Hence, they're incented to make the price as high as possible because they get paid more. Several of those will say, we'll represent you too, Mr. Buyer. Come be a sheep that's shorn. We'll be happy to take you in. In fact, some of them even require that if you want to see practices they list, you have to, besides signing up and agreeing that they are you have to be have them represent you as the buying broker, so that they're working both sides of the fence. They don't charge you that much to represent them because, quite frankly, all they're trying to do is keep you from having representation of someone else who can really tell what the value of the practice is. These brokers will say, well, the value of the practice, it's a transaction, what someone asks for and someone's willing to buy. That is, in fact, the true value of the practice. And to be truthful about it, that is correct. In any free marketplace, it is worth what a willing buyer and a willing seller will agree on the price. But the fact of the matter is, if you do your homework, what you'll find is they may have asked this price, you do your homework, you come in, and therefore you only offer what it's worth, and the seller comes down. Well, now the official market price is what two people have agreed to. But you paid this instead of this.
Right, right.
And that's what I do, is I make sure that you don't overpay for a practice.
I think it's really funny because it's like either the attorney that's trying to represent both the person that
yeah, sure, I'll be fair, both sides, yeah.
Who has the most money? Okay, and so that seems like a massive conflict of interest, and I know that if you're out there and you're looking at this and you're thinking, how does this really apply to me? Well, listen to the principles, because the Business Spotlight is teaching you new ways to think and be. We'll be right back.
Staying involved in dentistry on every level, local, state, and national, makes me a better dentist. Our patients are our life and our livelihood, and we appreciate every single patient that walks in that door. And these are our family, and we treat them that way.
And welcome back to the Business Spotlight. I'm Pat Dewar. I'm interviewing Dave Swift. Dave is a marketing guru, and that is his website too, which is nice. I think it's a .us, isn't it, Dave?
Right, themarketingguru.us with only one G.
One G.
Yes.
I'm an Aggie, so I wouldn't have caught that. I mean, there was two. But one of the things that we want to get into today is we've talked a little bit about the valuation and making sure that a dental practice is sold at a fair price, is what it sounded like. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in this part of it, what do we go to next? When you look at helping somebody acquire something, do you stay involved in helping them get where they want to go and build it up?
Well, we certainly can do that. But first we want to make sure that any investment, in terms of getting the best return on investment, you want to get it at the best possible price to start with, so that you've got cash left over maybe to invest in marketing and some things that you want to do to grow it. So we obviously look, when we're valuing a dental practice, at assets,
right,
and at EBITDA, basically your cash flow and your discounted cash flow values, and that's kind of a difficult thing at times, because for an older dental practice, there isn't too much in the way of assets. They're old, they're going to have to be replaced, and we have to take that into consideration. Another thing we have to take into consideration is a match in terms of the demographics of the patients and the doctor coming in. They may have the same or very different personalities. This could have an impact on attrition and retention.
Oh, okay? Yeah.
They may come from different religious backgrounds, and it may be that the patients are all from this guy's church, and we bring in someone with a different religion. It's not going to have the value over time, because they're going to realize it after a while.
Right.
So these are things that the selling broker isn't going to bring up. They're just there to basically move the practice and move on. To your point, what I do is, yes, try to get them the best value when they come in, but then also help them with things such as a strategic marketing plan, and how to sell, how to close business, how to make that treatment plan be something the patient wants to say, yes, I want to do that.
One of the things that, just to really bring some social proof to that, because a lot of people say, as consultants, they say, I want to help them do this, this, and this. But you have the proof in the pudding. You have practices that have done exactly that, even to the point where they've been, Consumer Choice Award winner type of things year upon year upon year. So you have built you got the proof.
Right, and in fact, this particular practice we're talking about that's won the Consumer's Choice Award the last 3 years, basically we took them, and by making changes, this wasn't purchasing it outright, but making changes, we were able to almost triple their revenues and quintuple their profits over 5 years. So this wasn't a startup. This was an existing practice that was doing better than average for an urban marketplace, and yet we were able to do the things from a strategic marketing plan and implementation of that plan to make it explode.
Now, when you help somebody with an acquisition, let's say that they're in an area of a city that is not, it's on decline is the only way. Mm-hmm. The population's aging, okay, just like the dentist. Do you recommend they move, or is it just depends on?
Well, it'll be up front. It'll be, let's determine where you really want to look to buy a practice.
Right.
Okay, that's the upfront. Don't buy something in a place that's going downhill. Instead, find where it makes sense for the period of time that you think you're going to be practicing dentistry and the type of practice that you want. There are those who want to be low end. I'm going to be the least expensive. I'm going to be on DMOs and PPOs and stuff. And there are those that say, oh, I really love doing cosmetics.
Right.
And it's going to be very difficult to get cosmetic patients to come to a part of town that they're not comfortable parking their car in. So depending upon what you want to accomplish and what your objectives and really what your passion is within all the options in dentistry, that's when you make a decision, where do I buy a practice?
Is there a checklist or something that you usually go through in even beginning the process of wanting to work with somebody or letting someone work with you? Because I know you're pretty selective.
Correct, and we'll want to make sure that someone, in fact, is serious.
Right.
That they can qualify to buy a practice, and that they, in fact, understand what they really want to accomplish in dentistry. And to do that, we normally recommend that we look at least an outline of a strategic marketing plan so that we can look at what they want to do, what services they want to perform, and we can look at target markets and therefore help them say, this is where you need to locate and find. Then we start looking for a practice in that area.
Interesting. One of the things that I encourage you to do, folks, is really, if you're a business owner, listen to the steps that Dave is talking about. I mean, yes, it's location, but it's even with the aging population. There's a tremendous amount of value in purchasing essentially somebody else's following. The Business Spotlight is giving you tips and tools to help you grow your existing business, or if you're a dentist, help you find the right one to buy. We'll be right back. Thanks so much.
Staying involved in dentistry on every level, local, state, and national, makes me a better dentist. Our patients are our life and our livelihood, and we appreciate every single patient that walks in that door. And these are our family, and we treat them that way.
Hi, this is Pat Dewar. I'm on the Business Spotlight, and my guest today is Dave Swift. We're talking about buying and selling dental practices. But for you, if you've got a small business or you're a solopreneur or you're a business owner, listen to what Dave is talking about. With his education, his foundation, with the Procter & Gamble and PepsiCo and the Frito-Lay division there and some other things like that, you're going to learn a lot about things that you should be looking at in your own business or in any business you want to acquire. Dave, what's the next step in your procedure?
Well, after we've determined what they want to accomplish and where they want to accomplish it, we then target the brokers that we know sell practices in that area, and we're familiar with them. And we look to see what's available, and we look to see what the potentials are, and if one is in the right area, and it looks like they're doing whatever the types of procedures are, at least on the surface, then we will approach the broker, let the doctors meet, and then if it looks, we examine the physical plant, see what is going to have to be replaced, repaired, and so forth. Then we do due diligence, and we go through the records of the practice. And we'll typically look at the last 2 full years plus the current year, depending upon where we are in the current fiscal year. And we will get into a myriad of different details, all of which are KPIs for determining how healthy is this practice. Because again, most of the time what you're buying is repeat business. You're buying cash flow. And to be able to do that, one of the things we look at is, are they bringing in new patients regularly? Because people are dying or moving or whatever, there's always an outflow, even no matter how good you are. And that's the same for any business. You're going to have people come and people go. You want to make sure more are coming than are going, or more that are going to buy more are coming, so that you can continue to grow. So we look at all those different KPIs and determine whether or not it's a practice you want to buy at all, regardless of the price.
Right.
Okay. So first of all, is it a good business?
Is it healthy?
Is it healthy, and does it have the potential to grow?
Do the clients like him?
Well, although that's actually less of it. It's because the staff is very important in a small business too. The people working for you are maybe more important than you. Depends upon whether in a dental practice the dentist is customer facing. In many small businesses, the owner isn't necessarily customer facing, so it's more important on how good is your staff and what kind of presentation do they make. And are they following through on whatever principles and mission and excellence that you want them to do in your business. But in the case of a dental practice, we do look and at basically we'll mystery call the practice and see how we're treated as if we were going to be a new patient. And that starts to tell us, okay, what's it going to be like? And we might even send somebody in as a mystery patient beyond the call just to see how they're treated and see how it flows and see whether what they're purporting is in fact what the reality is.
That's interesting, because it's that whole curb appeal thing, isn't it? It's making sure that every aspect of your practice is attractive.
Right. Well, it also helps us understand what the potential value is of the practice. And there is the value based upon history, and that's typically how practices are valued. But I would always prefer to, if I've got two practices that value at $1 million, I would love to make the choice and say, okay, I want to buy the practice that has the potential to be $2 million as opposed to the one that's going to be 1.1 best forever.
Right.
So you start looking at that, particularly when you've got choices in terms of which one you recommend that the client go forward with.
One of the things that I would be really curious about is, some leaders are very charismatic. They have a huge attractor factor. They bring in new clients all the time, or whatever. So the idea is that those people, to replace them, can be a real challenge, can't it?
Oh, it can, and that's, again, looking at the personality of the dentist. If the dentist is strong and outgoing, and there's a difference in practices as to who actually tries to close the sale. In many practices, it's the dentist. In larger practices, it's not the dentist. It's the staff.
Right.
And so who the dentist is matters less if they've got staff who can do that for them. Most dentists, frankly, are more introverted and the classical anal retentive, which is what you want in a dentist. You want them to want perfection, okay?
Right.
But not necessarily are they as comfortable talking about pricing or costs, or they just want to say, hey, here's what I think you would benefit by having, but I don't want to have you say yes to me. Okay?
Right.
And so that's where we start looking at, are there people who can do that consistently for the dentist?
I am just always stunned by that because, you know, a lot of times when a leader changes hands or a leadership changes, it can be a real challenge. Today we're talking about acquiring a dental practice, but really it's acquiring a practice, a business of any kind. If you're a business owner, you should be learning and taking notes. This is the Business Spotlight, and we'll be right back. Thanks so much.
Staying involved in dentistry on every level, local, state, and national, makes me a better dentist. Our patients are our life and our livelihood, and we appreciate every single patient that walks in that door. And these are our family, and we treat them that way.
Hi, I'm Pat Dewar. This is the Business Spotlight, and we're talking with Dave Swift about purchasing and selling of dental practices. Now, if you're a business owner out there, I hope you're really connecting to Dave as far as the systems that he puts in place to evaluate a business and make sure it's one that he would even want to work with and that would be a good value for any other dentist to acquire. So with that, Dave, I know that one of the things that people really need to know right up front here is how to connect to you.
Right. Well, the simplest way is, go to the website, which is themarketingguru.us. And in that, simply click on the Dental tab, and you'll find information about how you go about getting our services and that sort of thing. But I think the main thing is, and if you are in dental school, if you're just getting out of dental school, or you've been working for somebody for a couple of years, there's going to be constant opportunities to be exposed to, here are some dental practices that are available, because the brokers do a good job of getting the word out and marketing, we have a practice available. Before you do anything else, though, contact us, because what you want is to have someone helping you with the process from the beginning before that broker gets you to sign some exclusivity thing that says you can't have someone representing you. That's a favorite trick, and you just don't want to do that. Just as be like saying, I'm going to go on trial, and by the way, the prosecution just had me sign away, I can't have an attorney representing me. You probably wouldn't do that. So you probably don't want to do the same thing when what is going to be probably the largest investment of your life,
right,
and the thing most impacting your earnings for your life if you're a dentist, and that is buying the right dental practice and buying it at an appropriate price.
I'm curious, are there ranges for reasonable, I'm sure there are ranges that go all across the map, but what I'm curious about is for somebody that's 5 years out of school, they've been practicing with another dentist for a season, they kind of get it, they want to take the next step, and there's probably, or maybe they've been in longer than that, but the idea is they're about ready to start the quest, because I'm sure it's a big one. Are there better than, are there good ranges? What's a good price, I guess, is what I'm...
Well, it comes down to what they can afford.
Right.
Because there's a wide range of pricing based upon how much business those practices are doing, and whether they're solo practice, one doctor practice, or multiple doctor practices. So part of it in that upfront is, again, trying to find out what you're going to qualify for and essentially how much you can borrow, because that then tells us the range of practices that we have to look at, those that probably are going to fall within a place where you can afford it. And there's definitely dentists all the time who will buy a smaller practice to get started, build that up, sell it, and turn around and put that money into buying a bigger practice, maybe even in a different area, either because they couldn't afford to get in a practice in the area they wanted to begin with, or as they got into dentistry, they discovered, this is what I thought I wanted to do, but you know what I really enjoy, and the way I like to have a practice run is this way. Now let's try to find that. And that's the beauty of being a small business person, where you can buy and sell practices. If you can find a willing buyer, you can move on and change course, even within the same profession.
So they need to contact you at themarketingguru.us. When they do connect, is there a process for onboarding that client?
Yes. We'll contact them and have them fill out a questionnaire, basically, a profile, so we can understand what their objectives are, what they want to accomplish, their time frame, because some people are kicking tires, some people, this is it, or they've not planned ahead, and now they are right up against it. So, yeah, there's a whole system of things that we will go through, first of all, to pre-qualify them, let them meet me, because I'll be doing a lot of this, and make sure that we're in sync and that we can basically build a bond, because together, again, I'm going to have to be counseling on, again, the biggest financial decision that somebody makes, and you got to feel comfortable. I've bought and sold practices before. I know how it's done. As I said, I know what price they should go for, because banks trust me to, in fact, do it for them.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a good value. In fact, we have had situations where people have done that. Oh, I signed the contract already, and the company is representing me both as buyer and seller.
Ouch.
And we said, well then, but you still need representation, even if it's not official. And they said, well, but I'm already paying somebody for this. And what I said is, I guarantee you that I will save you more money than it's worth to pay them and me.
Wow.
Because I suspect those companies may have inflated the asking price a bit.
No.
Just possibly.
Yeah, so folks need to go to themarketingguru.us. If they're interested, they need to connect with you in that area. And then also, if there are any dentists out there that are looking to grow their business, they should connect with you as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we provide all sorts of help, both in the planning, the strategic marketing of your practice, and how to close sales, the practice management stuff, and as well as everything else we've talked about today.
That's excellent. Folks, I do hope that you connect with Dave Swift. I've seen him literally create a fabulous business in this area for one of his clients, and I know he's got many more in his hopper, but the one I've seen I actually use. So with that, this is the Business Spotlight, and I hope that you check us next week, same time, same station. Thanks so much.